just gives you different ways to look at it. You can also do it by lines instead of shaded. I like the shading better. I think it makes it easier. You can also layer in zip codes, right? If I take both of these out and then do zip codes, I can see, all right, this is in 30360. So all of Lockridge Forest is in 30360. It's just that it's in two different counties. So that's important to know if I'm trying to trace schools. So there's just different ways to look at things, but it's always going to be about what's most important to your buyer. But I always like to go in the door knowing what's going on by looking at the map first. I'm always going to print out some sheets when I go, to meet with these guys. I'm going to print out this sheet for me. This is the agent version. I'm going to print out the buyer version. And you might not know it here, but there's different versions of all these things.
I didn't even know that.
So this is the agent full version. Right, and the difference in MLS sheets, the agent version gives you down here private remarks. This house doesn't have any, but it gives you the showing instructions down here. It says showing service, showing time, and it gives me the listing agent's information. Would you want your buyer to know who the listing agent is? Not really. You don't want to call them. You want them doing business with you. So I print out this version of the one. That's the agent full, and then there's the buyer full, and I'll show you that one as well. So on the buyer full version, there's no private remarks, there's no agent information, there's no showing instructions, so you get more access. Zillow and Realtor.com and all these other places only pull the buyer information. They don't pull the agent information. So you've got a leg up on all of those people just because of that. Because the private remarks are going to tell you things like, hey, can only show between 10 and 12 during the week, anytime on weekends, or it'll tell you things like have 2 offers, need highest and best offer by Friday at 5 o'clock. So creates a sense of urgency knowing that information is out there available to you. All right, so I know I'm going to bring this sheet with me, right? So I'm going to have something prepared for them so I can hand them. But the other thing I want to know, and this always comes up, people want to know, all right, what's this house priced at? So it's priced at $358,900. We're just going to assume it's still where am I? There we are. I'm over here, there's all these screens and my mouse keeps going places. They're gonna ask you $358,900, I'd buy this house for $300,000, right? I mean, yeah, I'd buy the house for $300,000. Even if I'd have the money to, I'd buy it for $300,000 because I know a little bit about this area and neighborhood. It's clearly not a $300,000 house, right? So buyers always want a deal. So you got to be able to talk to them intelligently about and have the scripts and just getting used to things. It's like, what, I'd love to buy this house for $300,000 too. But let me ask you a question, Mr. Buyer. If this was your house, would you sell it for $300,000? They're going to go, well, no, because I want as much money as I can. And say, yeah. So what we have to decide, is this really a good price for the house or not? Is there room to negotiate with them if it's the house you really like? So, yeah.
I have a question. So how are you knowing, how do you know what is the price of the house, or what should it be?
Gotcha. Have you taken Ignite yet?
No.
Okay, that'll help you out. There's one whole specific one on pricing a home.
Okay.
But I'm going to give you some parameters here on what to do. So the first thing I do, along with this, and I always look at it, I'm trying to establish a long-term relationship with people. So all this information I don't give them first day, they might only have 25 minutes. But I'm going to bring this sheet with me that you see on the board. Other thing I'm going to run is I'm going to look at the neighborhood and look at what the sales have been. So this is Lockridge Forest. And if you haven't taken a Matrix 101 class, that's one of the first things you want to go do, is to know how to do this stuff. So I'm going to look in Lockridge Forest. I'm going to see that I'm going to look at coming soons. I want to know what's under contract, and I want to know what has closed over the last year in Lockridge Forest, right? So when I pull this up, I see, all right, there's 26 homes this is the sales activity in Lockridge Forest over the last year. So it's like there's 2 for sale currently, there's 3 under contracts, the ones with Ps for pendings, and then 6 through 26, so 21 homes have sold in the last year in Lockridge Forest. So this is where it starts to give me some interesting information. It's first off telling me what the list price was, then what the sale price was. So it's like sort of interesting. That one was listed at $459, sold for $459. That one was listed for $449.9, sold for $447, $410, $410. So as I go through here, I'm looking at like most homes are selling very close to list price, right? $375, $375. Somebody got a little deal there. It was 12 grand off. They got 5 grand off. They got 7 grand off. They got 4. You know, they got 2. So there's no, even when we get down to the one that sold for 280, 249.9, these people got 25 grand off, right?
Yeah.
What's that tell you about what that house might have been like if they got, everybody else is getting close to list price and we got a few down here that there's a big discrepancy, like number 26 on the list was listed for 290, sold for 225. So it tells you the list price was way off.
Yeah, because it was built in 1968.
Yeah,
Like, what?
had tons of issues with it. There's some great 1968 houses, right?
And number 25 didn't have a garage.
Yep, some of them don't have garages. So, you know, I'm looking at those and going, all right, you know, that's there was something going on here. This particular report gives you a list price and sales price, but over here is current price per square foot, which is a field, and the square footage of the home too. So this kind of information allows you to sort of be able to compare apples to apples with homes. You know, so if we're looking at the one that's under contract, we know it's a ranch on a basement, sold for $100 a square foot, and it's 3,500 square feet, which is pretty big compared to most of the other houses in here, right? And you got to look at price per square foot really in square footage in houses is very deceiving, okay? So if you build a brand new house and it's a ranch, let's say, and the basement's unfinished, they only, in the tax records, will show you the finished square footage on the main level. They don't count unfinished square footage in county tax records. So this ranch, the one at Lockridge Forest, that's almost 3,600 square feet, because it's finished, they're counting all of the square footage too. So if we look at some other houses that, and it gets into the tax record because you pulled a building permit. If you didn't pull a permit and you finished your basement out, the county doesn't know that it's finished and it doesn't show up on the county tax records even though it's finished square footage. So square footage is not the single best way to debate houses in a large scale thing, because in Atlanta they're all over the place. If you're in Florida where there's no basements, it's really easy to compare square footage to each other. Or if you're in a neighborhood here, it's all ranches on slab, then it's really easy to compare them and come up with good, you know, differences in square footage. And that's why here, that house at $100 a square foot, this one on Lockridge we're looking at, is sort of a real different one. Look at the other ones, 158, 162. So when I look at this to sort of square footage, just to pull out some differences and sort of, I look at it as bracketing, right? Because here we're at 190, and then as we go through 126, 127, 138, you know, I'm looking down this list. So 171, 193 is the high, 115 is the low. So, you know, probably $150, $150 a square foot is sort of the median in the thing. And when I look at the one that we're going to see and it's $100 a square foot, and, you know, then I can tell the person they're asking me is a good price. And I said, well, on a price per square foot basis, this is the best deal in Lockridge Forest. Everybody, the median's $150 a square foot. This one's priced at 100. It's the lowest that would have been sold in here forever. Then you can explain to them why, because this includes all the finished basement square footage. That's one way to look at it too. But I will bring this chart with me, right? And say, hey, you know, I know you want to get a good idea of what prices are going for in this neighborhood. So this house is priced at $360 or $358.9. Homes have sold in here from $459 down to $289. So that's $170,000 worth of price difference in here, right? This house is sort of in the middle of them. But as we're looking on here, we know most homes are selling pretty close to what you're asking for. So this chart right here, and you can print this out really quickly. You just highlight all of those by checking the box and you press print. And this is where you'll get more into the stuff the further you go. Puts it on this little sheet, so I bring this with me. So the first time I go to show somebody, I can do this all in about a minute. If I'm talking to somebody on the phone, like, I want to go see this house, like, great, let me make an appointment, it's vacant, I'm sure it's not a problem. 2 o'clock work for you, and they say yes. So fantastic. I'm going to print out that agent and buyer full report, and I'm going to print out 2 copies of this, one for me, one for them. I've now got facts and statistics to talk to them about, right? So they're going to go, oh, you already did some homework for me. You brought me some stuff and helped me try to figure out this house and where it fits into the whole thing. If you really want to get a better idea of pricing, what I start to do then, and I can come down and teach a class sometime, I would go back and look at the houses that have already sold for $359 or right around in that area, and go, all right, so that one sold for $358, this one sold for $360. Yeah, it's a split level, looks sort of like a nice house, right? Looks pretty clean and updated inside. Ranches, if you have a ranch and a split level, the same square footage, the ranch will always sell for a higher price because people don't have to deal with stairs. Split levels are sort of the least desired of home styles, even though they're fairly common in this area and building in the 60s and 70s, not so much in the 80s, but 70s in particular. But this has some nice space, a nice room. So I just start to look at the houses priced right around it to get an idea, like, does this house, when I'm looking at things, make sense? And you get really good at going through all these pictures really quickly in real estate. But those are a couple of things that I'm going to bring with me the first time I talk to people, right? The next thing, though, so part of your job then is, it's like, all right, I did a little research here, but the next time I meet with them, I want to get them more into speed, like what's going on in the market right now. And that's, again, my thought process on it. I want my people to be very educated. They've got to know right now, is this a buyer's market or a seller's market? So what's your guys' take on whether it's a buyer's or a seller's market?
Sellers.
Sellers? Is it a seller's market if you have a $800,000 home in this area?
Yes.
Probably.
Let's find out. So there's a couple different ways of doing this. One is we're going to look at on this main page of Matrix. There's a neat little report on here. So when you become an agent, you get your FMLS login ID, right? So you can start looking for houses, and this is the page you're going to be doing it on. This system called FMLS. On the very first page, there is this thing called FMLS InfoSpark Stats. It's a great place to go for a one-page quick report that'll give you some insight about the area you're looking in. So one thing I do is when you hit this thing, down here there's this thing called More Stats. And when you get some time, just go and play with this thing. It gives you some fantastic info. And then there's a part of it called Fast Stats up here. So when you get the fast stats, it's like, all right, let's go look. We were sort of in this particular house was in Gwinnett County that we were looking at, and it was in the 30092 zip code is where that house was. So I can pull up a report for 30092. So this shows me for the month of October what's going on in 30092. So we're like, all right, there were 17 homes sold in 30092 versus 13 last year, so sold 30% more homes. That's sort of wild. So the big ones I look for on here are what are sales doing? We see there's more inventory, that's what new listings are. We see sales price is up. Average sales prices is comparing October of 2019 to 2018. And we see there's a 2.5 month supply of homes currently in that zip code. What's a normal real estate market in terms of month supply of homes? About 6 months. So that's what the experts will tell you, that if it's a balanced buyers and sellers marketplace, there's about a 6-month supply of homes on the marketplace. And that means if there were 60 homes for sale at the beginning of November, 10 of them would sell, right? And 10 new ones would sort of come onto the marketplace. So based on the current rate of sale, which is 10 per month, and if there were 60 for sale, you'd go through that inventory in a 6-month period of time. So that's considered a pretty balanced sales and listing marketplace. So this one you can see we got a 2.5 month supply of inventory. That means it's a seller's market.
So if it's under 6, it's a seller's market.
Yeah, but every market and sub-market are very different, and that's what I'm going to show you on this next one. So like I said, it's another great piece of paper. I will generally print this out. The second time I meet with somebody, I want them to understand what the marketplace is doing and where they fit in, because it's going to make a difference in what the strategy is for what we're doing and what they're looking for as well. So, starting in you guys, the more he's in this office, especially on the Tuesday mornings, they will be reviewing numbers and things on an ongoing, regular basis. So you get some really good insight as to what's happening in the marketplace. That's one of the things your office does really well. Brad is fantastic with it, about helping you to understand the big picture, right? So the big picture in real estate was, in 2007, the market was at its peak, and then we ran into the whole mortgage thing, and so it got to about 2012, where it bottomed out, and then since 2012, we've been going back up again, sort of like crazy. In this area, it started even a little earlier because investors realized the opportunities and started to buy in Sandy Springs and Dunwoody. That's why prices are higher now. But also in last year, in about March, April, we started to see that prices were starting to get high enough where it was starting to impact sales a little bit in particular price ranges. Because the big picture is that, your salary for most people went up 1.5%, 2% a year, and the price of homes was going up 10, 11, 12%. Yeah. So at some point, if it got up here, you just can't afford it anymore. So it started to, like summer last year, buyers started to say, I am not paying this much for that kind of house anymore. And they did. They really slowed down their activity. In the entry-level housing market, which there's not a lot for sale for $250 around here, that is red hot still, because there's a lot of cash buyers as well. So where do you go for those kind of numbers? Like I said, this is a great one-stop shop sort of thing. You can pull it by zip code, you can pull it by market area, you can pull it I can view the whole county report here as well. I see there's a 2.6-month supply of homes in Gwinnett County, so still sort of telling us the same tale. But this is looking back, this was October, right? And we're pretty much in mid-November now. There's a better place to get most current information. So this is your main page on FMLS. They have this report section, and they have something called absorption analysis over here. This gives you last 30, 60, or 90 days data, depending on what you're pulling. So we're going to look again at the 30360 zip code, which is right next door to the one we were looking at. We're going to look for 1 month back, and we're going to run this report. So this is giving us sort of the same information, right? Because it's still telling us at the bottom right here is month supply of inventory, but now it's doing it based on price ranges. So this is where we start to see, and I'll show you a different one because there's not a ton of inventory down here, so it's tougher to look at this whole thing. But you see in the 400 to 450 price range, there's a 4-month supply inventory. There's a 3-month supply in 300 to 350. There haven't really been any sales in that particular zip code. They just don't, do things in that thing. So let's look at 30328, right? That's right next door, isn't it? In Sandy Springs. That'll give us a whole different thing. So 30328 starts to tell us a different. Let me get rid of some of these things too, because let's look at 131, Yeah, I'm just gonna edit out some stuff to 131, 121. Oops. All right, now we'll run this report and it'll just be a little easier to see all on one screen. So now we see that, below 350, there was only one home sold in the last month, 0 month supply of inventory. There's a few houses up here in 350 to 400, so 2 sales. There's 6 on the market currently. Then we see in 400 to 450, there's 9 active homes with 1 sale. So now I got a 9 month supply right there. The smaller the numbers of sales and actives, the market can swing wildly from month to month. But we get up into some of these ones where we're looking like, all right, 550 to 600, there were 2 sales, so there's 11 active right here. So we start to see some trends, right? Like that little 9 blip, I just look as a blip overall. It's not the be all and end all. But when we get up here, see, all right, 2, 3, 6. So it starts to become more of a normal marketplace up to about 900,000. That's pricey real estate, 30328 anyways. Then we get above 900,000 and we see that there's a lot of inventory in the marketplace. So 10 month supply here, 18 month supply here. So your conversation's different with buyers, right? It's like, hey, listen, here's the deal. If we are looking at houses under $500,000 in this area, 30328, we really need to be able to move quickly. You've got to, because a house that you like is probably not going to be there a week from now. So that's creating a sense of urgency. And this is how you use these reports with buyers, because I got to tell you, some buyers will love to see every house that's ever been on the market in Metro Atlanta. I have one buyer I've been working with for 5 years to find them a house in Sandy Springs or East Cobb because they don't have to buy and they want the deal of the century. So she's talked herself out of a few houses here and there and hasn't been wanting to get realistic, It's one of those, whatever, they'll buy one day. And they'll make a lot of money because they're looking at $1 million houses. But you really don't want people to be in that position. So when you can create a sense of urgency with them through this, it's great. The flip side is if we're looking here and we're looking at $1 million, $2 million, right? There's a 1.5 year supply of homes. So your negotiating position is much better on that side of things. So this is where you tell your people like, hey, listen, we're going to find the house that you like the best, that you think is the best value, and we're going to try to get the best price on it possible because they're not getting a lot of offers on it, in this price range right now. Let me show you, like I said, I work out of the Suwannee office, so most of my business is in Forsyth County, and this gives you, let's reset all the fields. Pull the county up. So you can pull this by county, zip code, you can pull it by school district.
Is there a class for this?
What's that?
Is there a class to learn how to use this?
Yeah, it is. So FMLS at their office in Sandy Springs, right inside the perimeter on Roswell Road. It's about a half mile down on the left. They do how to pull all of these things. They don't talk too much about absorption analysis though. And these reports are, like I said, there's a few things I use. There's a few, you're going to see, you have access to more facts and figures and statistics than you ever knew how to shake a stick at, right? But the 2 sheets that I told you I take the first time, the agent sheet, the buyer sheet, and what's sold in the neighborhood, those are the ones I always pull. But one little FMLS chart is the one I always pull. That's like my second time chart, and I back it up with one of these too, so we can start talking about what's going on in the market and what's going on in your price range in the area that we're looking at. So I feel then I've really educated my buyer well and have started to steer their conversations towards, getting them to go out and see houses and, get them thinking about things. My other recommendation, first time you meet with somebody, show them 1 or 2 houses at the most.
Okay.
Because first off, you will be nervous. I mean, the first time you go out with somebody, like, I mean, it's like you don't know what to expect, right? You know, it's like, do you know how to open up the lockbox because it's an app on your phone? And like, you know, one of the things you find out, like, because it was new, because they switched the app last year, was that you don't have GPS turned on, you can't get into the house, right? And it didn't tell you that that was the problem. It does now. It'll say location services must be enabled. But, you know, you got a lot going on.
You start beeping, it's beep, beep, you're like, oh my God, did I just
Oh,
do
yeah,
wrong?
so, yeah, like all sorts of things, you know, so, the more simple you can make it on yourself, if you're only showing them one house, because you're talking to them, you're building rapport, you're meeting them, you're excited, right? They're excited too, if they haven't been out to see anybody, you know, with anybody to see a house yet. So you want to make things sort of as easy on yourself as possible. So, you know, it's like, all right, I got us into the house, this is cool, I know what I'm doing, right? And then you can start walking with them and talking through the house, because like I said, most of the time I'm meeting people for the first time, so I'm trying to get to know them and them to get to know me and figure out what is their, like, you know, what are we really looking to do with them? You know, what are they looking for? What's their motivation? What price range are they in? Have they talked to a lender yet? Do they know where they want to be? What's their time frame? Have they talked to any other agents yet? You know, do they understand how real estate works? That, you know, as the buyer, they're not going to be paying any commissions. You know, they don't pay the buyer's agent, the seller does. Some people just don't know that, so they're a little pulled back because they think they're going to have to pay you something for the first time that they're meeting you, which isn't the case at all. So I've just found it very helpful if we're only talking about one house and going through it, you know, or even two, it's great. Because what happens when you're going to show them 7, right? And you have to schedule appointments. So, you know, I try to schedule an hour blocks. You know, it's like if I'm going to meet somebody at 10 o'clock in the morning, I'll schedule a half-hour appointment. But you got to get out with people enough to know how long most people take to see houses. And then after a while, you get really good at it, you know. So I can plan out my whole schedule, and we'll be seeing 7 houses, and I plan on showing the first one at 10 o'clock, and we're going to finish at 1:15, right? And I mean, we finish at 1:15. Not because I ever pushed them out the door for anything. It's just most people take, the first house is going to take longer because they're talking or getting to know you, and I can show it to them in about 20, 25 minutes, and you got to drive to the next one. So I want my next appointment, if I'm starting at 10, my next one, I'm going to start at 10:30, but I'm going to have it go to 11:30. If they find a house they love, they'll spend 45 minutes in it, all right? If they find one they don't like at all, it's only going to take them 15 minutes. So you get to read your buyers that way too. I mean, I had one guy though, every house 2 hours to see it. I mean, he's pulling down the stairs, walking up in the attic, he's doing a whole home inspection.
How long did it take them to pick one?
I found they jettisoned them. I mean, they were completely unrealistic. This guy wanted to spend $150,000 for a $250,000 home. This was like 6 years ago. Yeah. And he's like, well, you know, my friend got $100,000 off on the house. I go, which house was it? Let's take a look at
what time was
why.
the
I said,
market?
you know, I said, not every home's a distressed sale. I mean, you know, 2012, there were instances you were getting that much off because people were desperate and everything. And I mean, I'm not afraid to walk away from people that are wasting my time.
How do you walk away? What's something that we could say, some verbiage?
You know, it always depends on what the situation is, you know, but I'll just be like, so listen, you know, I mean, let's just, you know, I would love to help you find a house, but you seem to have very different expectations about what's possible in the marketplace right now. You know, if you're really looking for a $250,000 house and you only want to pay $150,000 for it, I go, you know, that doesn't exist in the marketplace right now. And I will run them that sheet, the original one I showed you for Lockbridge, that shows list price and sales price. So I go run that sheet for them for the area that they're looking in, not just in a specific subdivision, and say, here's the last 100 sales in the area that you're looking at. And here's the list price, and here's the sales price, right? Like, the average price, list price to sales price ratio is 97%. All right, so let's take a look here so you see where I'm getting these numbers from. So this is Forsyth County right here. Let me just minus this down a little bit so we can see more of it. So this sheet gives you a lot of information, all right? Every county's broken up into areas. So as you see these areas over here, 221, 222, 223, 224 on the left-hand side of the page, those are geographical areas. So you will learn Dunwoody's Area 131, Sandy Springs, north of the Primrose, Area 121. Just north of the Chattahoochee, as you get up 400 in North Fulton County up there. So Area 13 is north and west of Georgia 400. Area 14 is east of 400. So it encapsulates all of Fulton County in those areas. So there's just different ways to figure out where the area you're supposed to be in. So FMLS assigns areas, and that's what these have to do with. But if I'm just looking at Forsyth County overall, at the very bottom on the right, there's a 3-month supply of inventory. But this is where I was telling you it's sort of interesting. So we got 0, 1 month, 1 month, 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, 3 month, and then this price area, all of a sudden, we start 8 months, 6 months, 7 months, 6 months. Like we go from hot buyer's market down here, or hot seller's market with limited inventory. Then all of a sudden we get into sort of a normal or more of a buyer's market, and that price point is $450 to $500. It's like such a clear break, and this looks completely different than it did 2 months ago. The numbers from $450 to $600 were still pretty seller's market 2 months ago. It really slowed down in higher price points in Forsyth County at that point in time. But this chart shows you a couple other things too. So total sales is going to be the last 30 days of sales on here. Total active, how many homes are for sale in each of those price ranges. So we can see way over on the right, 346 homes sold in the last 30 days, 1,183 on the market currently. Average days on market, 57. So it's about 2 months to sell a house in Forsyth County overall right now. But again, that varies by price point dramatically, but not terribly. It's not, I mean, in some months, this has been like 12 days in particular price ranges. But you start as you look across 142 days, 64 days, 62, 48. Then there's this average TDOM, that's total days on market. That reflects homes that have had a price change too. So when they change prices, and you'll hear Brad talk a lot about that, it really makes a difference on time on the marketplace. But average sales price to list price ratio. So you see over on the right, average sales price to list price ratio in the last month in Forsyth County, 98%. Most people are getting 98% of what they ask. That's been, for the last 5-6 years, 98, 99% in almost all of Metro Atlanta when you look at counties. You know, that's the bigger picture. And the next one's average sales price to original list price. So that would be people who had to take a price reduction, right? That was their original list price. It's 96%. This is a conversation you have on this piece of paper with your people. It's, hey, you know, here's what's going on in the market right now. We're looking, you know, you want a $350,000 house in Forsyth County, so let's say we're in that $350 to $399 realm. You know, there's about a 3-month supply of homes. Homes are selling for 98% of list price on average. You know, and that's going back to my discussion with a guy. I was like, you're looking for to spend $150,000 on a house. It's clearly worth $250,000. That's not going to happen in this marketplace. It's a seller's marketplace. You know, why would somebody discount their house by $100,000? So I'm not sure if I'm the right agent for you, because if you're looking for that kind of deal, there's 2 places that you should go. One is auction.com. That's going to auction off homes directly. You know, most of them need a lot of work. They don't show up in my system, so you go to auction.com, they've got their own rules. They're going to tell you things like you bid on the house, you have to pay cash that day, you have to pay a 5% buyer's premium. So you can go that way, or you can go to the courthouse steps on the first Tuesday of the month where they auction off foreclosed properties, and you can try to buy a property there. You know, so they're just different ways to do it. But you know, I'm a residential real estate agent. You know, I'm going to work with you to get you a great deal on for homes that are on the market right now. But there's just some things that I'm not, and that's not one of them.
I love it. You took yourself out of it, but you gave them other options.
That's it, you know, and so go investigate them. If it's not the right thing for you, I'll help you find a house, you know, but that's just one way to do it,
I
so.
love it.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So this, for me, these are the facts and statistics I use. They're super easy to pull up. It's the only thing I need to know. When I'm talking to people, and when you're in real estate, you will find everybody loves to talk about real estate. I mean, your friends are gonna, oh, what's going on in the market? I mean, that's what I know, what's going on in the market. Like in Forsyth County, I go, it really depends on what price range you're in. It's a complete seller's market under 450, and it's a complete buyer's market over 450, you know. Why do you ask? Are you looking to, you know, buy, sell, or invest in real estate? You know, there's great deals out there. You know, we just got to look for them. Sort of depends on your goals, but man, people love to talk about real estate all the time. It's like, and for you, I mean, that's the biggest way that you get paydays in real estate is to have conversations with people about real estate. Because it doesn't happen any other way. I mean, people just, you know, new agent, you know, it's like opening a dry cleaners downtown in Dunwoody. There's 5 other dry cleaners and they've been in the business for 20 years. Why is somebody coming into your dry cleaner? You got to let them know that you have a dry cleaner, that you got great products, that they're going to enjoy coming to your dry cleaner store, that you're going to help them with their dry cleaning. You know, that's what your business is about. It's how you go about building that stuff.
And we got facts.
Yeah, but yeah, facts and statistics. So let me show you a couple other like sort of interesting things, because you know there's a lot of changes going on in real estate, right? So 3 years ago, OfferPad and Open Door and Knock and Zillow Offers and Mark Spain Instant Offers didn't exist. So there weren't these giant companies with a lot of money, and it's all venture capital money, competing for our buyers or our sellers with us right now, because you know it's the easy button for people. They can call Zillow Offers, right, you know, and get an instant or Mark Spain and get an offer on their home. It's not going to be as much as they could sell if they were on the open market, because these people take risk when they buy, but they're looking to establish a beachhead, so they're not looking for 30% profit margins either. So, you know, in general, I would tell you, you know, if somebody has a $300,000 house and they come in and make an offer, they're getting net about 15% lower, you know, so maybe, you know, maybe if it's a $300,000 house, they're getting net $255 on it, so somebody can say, oh, for $255, yeah, I'm not going to put my house on the market, you know, and they'll go and sell it that way. You know, that's completely different than it used to be. It's the same on the buyer side too, when people can use that app to go out and see houses and figure out what they want to go do themselves. They can end around the real estate agent. So you got to be on your game. That's what it comes down to.
Yes.
And as a buyer's agent, you know, part of your job also with your clients is to protect their interests. And you have more than just an open the door form. That's a customer. For clients, you sort of have to do everything, and you have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for things in the area. So there's a couple other tools that these are a little more advanced, but you should know that they're there, I think more than anything else. So one of them is, I was looking for somebody for land in this area. So let's say that I'm going to do a search for land in Dunwoody. You can search for, these are lots and land, so oops, if I spell it wrong, it doesn't like it either. So Dunwoody. I see there's 7 things on the market right now. Let's look at this. So I start to see, and one of the things, do they have it on here? Price per acre, right? So I'm looking at Dunwoody. So if I, like this lot is for sale for $1.17 million. It's 1.8 acres. So it sort of shows you it's on Roberts Drive, great development in the heart of Dunwoody, potential commercial development, but you know, you see that the price of poker is sort of high here, right? $650,000 an acre. But if somebody's looking for a deal, it's like, whoa, $102,000 an acre. What is going on here that would make this one, and even this one at $217? So I'm looking at that one, $217. What's it telling me? Residential lot, flat private street. Property used to have a lake, now just a stream crosses the property. So what's my overhead show me on this? I'm like, all right. So actually it's showing that this lake used to cross the property, but now the lake isn't in existence anymore. It's a stream crossing the property. That might mean
How do you
there's
show
no-
that?
Which?
At that, like, I mean, do you just drive up to it, or if someone's got to buy that, how do they inspect all of their land, or?
Well, a couple things, and I'll show you on the next one, because I know more about this next property. I didn't really research this one. So this one is Dunwoody Club Drive, over closer to 400, right? So 3.5 acres right here. It's like 3.5 acres, you could put a few homes on, and if it's $102,000 an acre, that's an amazing low-cost
return,
piece of land,
yeah.
because basically land is 300,000 and up in this area too.
Right.
So what's happening? So I'm going to look, so pull up the bigger map, right? Like anything going on here that I can see? No, not really. But across the top here, they have some information for you: listing tax photos, history, parcel map, flood map. Is it in a flood zone? Maybe there's something wacky going on here. So flood zone, this X thing, that's everybody's in X if you're normal, right? But then over here we see A, which is the 100-year flood zone. Over here there's the X 500-year flood zone. So this is showing that this is not in a flood zone. I'm like, oh, okay, not in a flood zone, Well, what else can I do to sort of scope this out before I go see? Because as a real estate agent, my most valuable thing is my time, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm not wasting my time, I can use more of my time to try to get people in my car or get appointments to go list their house. I mean, and that's really what you got to focus on, is the more conversations I can have about real estate, great. If I'm not wasting my time, I can have more conversations about real estate, because it'll all pay back off for you in the end. So I'm like, well, where else can I go? So I know that there's these things called GIS systems, Geographical Information Systems. So I'll show you one of these, show you something on the lake first before I get back to this one, just because it'll make it a little easier when we get to this one. So if I look at this house on the lake, what's the address here? 9110 Beaver Trail Road. Okay. I go home, 9110. Beaver. All right. It shows me a $1.5 million home on Lake Lanier. So it's a nice house at the back of this cove. All right. So I'm like, oh, this is sort of cool, So the house sits real close to the lake. A lot of people like that because they want to see the water. So I'm like, oh, what's going on here for this house and elevation? So one of the first, if you ever get into lakes, in particular, but this can help you in other things, is you got to sort of see, like, does this cove ever dry up on Lake Lanier? I live on Lake Lanier, so the water level has been anywhere from 4 feet over full pool. Full pool on Lake Lanier is 1,071 feet above sea level. It's been as high as 1,075, and it's been as low as 1,061 in the 5 years that I've lived there. So pretty much a 15-foot swing, right? So if this drops from full pool at 1,071 down to 1,061, are we going to be in good shape? So one of the things I look at first is Google Earth Pro, because that's a really cool feature here, and this is on your sheet as well. So what the address there was, 9110 Beaver Trail. So it's 910 Beaver Trail in Gainesville, and search. And you got to use the Pro version, which isn't available.
Did you search for Google Earth Pro, or did you click a button? How'd you get there so far?
I just have it as a tab on the bottom of my screen.
Okay.
Yeah. So I start to see 9110 Beaver Trail there, and this does all sorts of cool stuff. These ones, when you get used to it, you can spin it around to give you a different view. So I sort of want to see that view of the house. This is what Google Earth Pro does for you. You can't do this on an iPad or an iPhone. You have to be on a desktop for it, because it doesn't work on my iPad. They don't have the thing for it. There's a date down at the bottom. It says 1993. It allows you to see the satellite imagery at different points in time. So this one says March of 2019. It's like, okay, I know that looked like it was pretty flat. You can see April 2017, look, it's down a little bit. Here's our house is right in the middle of this screen right here. So they have good water in April 2017. But, you know, going back in time, and I'm gonna get to April 2008, when the lake was at one of its lowest points ever. We start to see that was September 2009. Here is April 2008. Would you want one of these houses? Would you want to have spent $1 million on this for your
No.
dock to be stuck in the mud? This one, their dock is still in good water,
Right.
so they're in a much better position in this cove. But I still want to sort of know what's going on with the elevation in here, and here's where county GIS websites come into play. So every county has a GIS website of some kind, and I just bookmark all of this stuff. That's why I can move to them pretty quickly. Here is the Forsyth County GIS viewer. And they do a couple of cool things for you, and you can pull all sorts of tax data and notice things. What is, there we go. 910 Beaver Trail pops up. Sorry, that gives me the tax information on 9110. But there's a layers button on here, so I want to see contours and I want to see imagery. So what this tells me, all these little yellow lines are 2 feet different in elevation. So I know when I come in up at the street, this is 1,152 feet above sea level. That's what these little yellow lines, that might be tough to see on the screen. So that's 1,152 feet at the street. And then I'm coming down here to, where was the house we're looking at? There we are. It was this house. When we enter into the front door on this house, this is like 1,118 feet above sea level right here. It's like 1,116 feet above sea level at the front door. And I know that the lake's 1,071 feet. So I know, based on when those lines get close together, it's a really steep drop, that when I walk out the side of the house, I'm at 1,098, and then it's 1,074 down here by the shore. So if you're looking for people who don't, if you ever get onto the lake and they want a nice smooth backyard, these kinds of sites you can use to figure this thing out. So we're gonna go over to Dunwoody now, and that house that we were looking at, to see, where is that matrix? So we were at the lots houses. All right, so we were on this house and we were trying to figure out what the heck was going on with it. So we're like, all right, we see that lot, can't tell much about its elevation. So maybe it's just a cliff, and that's why it's 102 a square foot there. So we are gonna go to the, no, I opened this tab, but maybe I didn't. We'll go to the Dunwoody. Oops. Dunwoody's got its own. City of Dunwoody. All right. So what we can tell here, Dunwoody Smart Map. We're gonna pull open. What was that ad? Okay, we like that. What was that address? Here was 4881 Dunwoody Club Drive. So we're gonna look for 4881. 4881 Dunwoody Club Drive. All right, so that starts to give us some information here. And this gives you that, we got parcel, we got topography here. So we layer that in, and it does the same thing for us, just a slightly different format. So we see down here at the bottom, 920 feet. Up here at the top, 946 feet. So if you were going to develop this piece of property, 946 down to 920, that's actually, 26 feet. I mean, depending on where you put the main drive in, but nice basement lot. Basement's about 12 feet is what you want from where a basement would walk out till first floor. So the topography is, like right where these lines get closer, that means that it's a bigger thing, but if you wanted to develop this property, maybe you bring a street in here and you put 1, 2, 3, 4 houses on this piece of property because it was big enough to be able to do that. And then you'd have down here, but it's like, still, what else is going on in this thing? And why is that price so cheap? Because it looks like I could build a house on it. Then you layer in here the flood map area, and you find out that future conditions, 100-year flood zone. So half of this property is in a soon-to-be flood zone.
Now, where did you see that 100-year flood zone? Where we at? Oh, right there.
Yeah,
Okay.
future conditions,
Okay, there we go.
100 year. Yeah. I didn't find that on the state map. I found it on Dunwoody's maps. So they're a little better. So if things ever strike you as odd, they're probably odd. There's like no simple, you know, if things should be going for 300,000 an acre and they're going for 100,000, there's a big reason why, you know? So always know what the reason why is if you're good to go show the house. Because if I call the person and say, hey, I found out why it's so cheap, right? And I'll screenshot this little map to them and say, you know, I found out the big deal on, you guys all, are you Windows 10 people or Apple people? Yeah, the different ways to doing it, you know, too. In mine, where is it, Snip and Sketch, I will just do I'll do one of these and send it to somebody. And I can copy paste that into an email and say, hey, here's the property. Just want you to see that half of it's in a 100-year flood zone. And that might be like, oh, no way, I don't even want to go see it. That's it. I just saved myself 2 hours out of my day right there with something little like that. So yeah, just the GIS sets are, like I said, they're cool tricks for odder properties. I think I've put it more than anything else. But Google Earth Pro I certainly use all the time. The GIS stuff, you know, school rankings. I've got a thing on there. School ranking stuff will come up for you guys all the time, right? There's School Digger. There's others, you know. You know, what I always tell people when they'll ask me about schools, you know, because there's only so much you can say about things like that before you get into ethics stuff and you know, fair home guideline stuff is I just tell them, like, listen, as a real estate agent, you know, there's things I can and can't comment on. You know, I can't tell you whether a school's a good school or not. I can say you should go on and do some research on your own. I would just say any of the sites that you find that parents rank the schools, I would just caution you that a small group of activist parents can really change the school's ratings very quickly. If, you know, there's 10 loudmouths and they've got 30 friends and there's only, you know, so now you got 40 people who are saying bad things about the school, you know, you're not going to get 500 people saying great things about the school because most people just don't go onto these sites and do things. I said, so I just tend to be a facts and statistics guy when it comes to that stuff. So the biggest one I've found is the Atlanta Journal-Constitution School Guide, which I think gives great data overall. So what you're able to do there is, if I'm looking in Forsyth County for a high school, and this is every school in Georgia shows up on this, right? Is if I'm gonna look at these, I'm like, oh, okay, here's Forsyth Central. This, like the toggle was ranking right here, but if you pull one of these schools up, like my daughter goes to North Forsyth High School, which got 4 stars, that's great. But then it gives you all of the data about the schools on here, so just follow those links. It always takes a couple minutes to load. But I've just found it to be the best source of very factual school data that allows people to go as in-depth as they want, because it'll give them all the CCRPI scores, which is the new way that they rank all the high schools and elementary and middle schools against each other. Crap, that's taking a long time to pull up. Jeez Louise. No, you're just sort of the areas that you're working in. There's always a Facebook group for, like, Forsyth County has 2 of them, Forsyth Homeowners Association. That tends to be more zoning stuff. The other one's more about what kind of snake is this in my backyard, right? So you can learn things. Or it's another social media thing that's real big in neighborhoods called Nextdoor. So it sort of plugs you into the area that you're looking in and what's going on there. I'm hoping this actually loads in our lifetime so you can see it. But sort of know your areas, it's like, I sell mostly in Forsyth County, but my last 2 sales were down here. I've always had a good book of business in Dunwoody and Chamblee as well. So I know those areas, I know those schools pretty well, because you always want to just, you're the authority. That's sort of what people are looking for you to be, as the authority on there too. So those things just help give you what's going on in the neighborhood. And you find things out about zoning and stuff then too.
Zoning, where do you find that at?
So you can find that out directly if you're on a piece of property. Geez, I gotta look at the right one. See if that pops up for you. So if you're on a piece of property, and I told you anything that's ever in blue is like a highlighted link. For instance, like who is this agent? Tim Abney. He's highlighted. I can find out everything about him that I need to know right there, right? Mm-hmm. The tax ID though pulls up on a realist tax system. Everything about this. So it says flood zone X, zoning R100 is residential. And I don't know exactly what City of Dunwoody's zoning designation for R100 means. You can go, if you Google Dunwoody, City of Dunwoody, Georgia zoning, you'll eventually find a page that'll list all of their, commercial, R1, R2, and different counties call them different things. Like R1 in Forsyth County is, you gotta have 35,000 square feet for a house. And R2 is like 25,000. And agricultural has its own thing. You have to build on a minimum of an acre if you're agricultural. Hopefully you don't get too far down that path. Most of the, because in general, if you're looking at the zoning stuff, it's because somebody wants to buy land or they want to buy something, tear something down and redo it too. But that's where you would find out that information. This one gives you the taxes. So on almost every listing, that blue link that I showed you pops up. So you can see what their taxes were for the last 3 years, 2016, 17, and 18. Because it's raw land, taxes are really low on land here in Georgia. This gives you, just like the Zestimate, its own estimated value, right? It'll tell you if it was previously listed, when it last sold. So we can see this thing sold in 2012 for $110,000. And then it also has a separate link right here for the whole tax ID that will take you actually to the county's website search and for DeKalb, and you can pull up even more information there. I think you have to enter in the rest of the thing there. Let's see if the school's ever popped up. This thing's not working well today, but that AJC guide is a good one. So yeah, there's some other ones on here if you want to search see if anybody's in pre-foreclosure in your neighborhood. You can go to that preforeclosure.com site and scour and look around for that. There's the very bottom one, there's a home buyer's guide. I send that out to my first-time home buyers. After I meet with them, if they're first-timers, I met with them once, I go, oh cool, I'm going to send you this first-time home buyer's guide. This is a good link with factual information, and it tells them to use a realtor, so it sort of reinforces our message. I found that to be helpful too. But all of this, if you're a new agent, I would just tell you, just take as many classes as you can, because then this all seems real familiar to you and not overwhelming, because it's like the old, you're drinking out of the fire hose when you first start. There's so much information.
You connected a few dots for me.
That's it. But yeah, just every one of these classes helps you connect all the dots, and gives you different people's ways of saying things, so you can figure out what your way is going to be, too. But and the other big thing is when you meet people out at a house as a buyer, be prepared to have fun, because people like dealing with people that they like, too. So you have to be that combination of personable and serious, and I always think you're interviewing for a job, so I always dress better than my people. This would be my like Saturday afternoon. I'm going out and up and out with you 3 or 4 times. Other than that, it's like I always want to be dressed better than my clients and let them know that I'm a business professional. Before I let them inside the rest of the world of John Hawn further down. The thing, you guys all look very presentable today, and people would know that you're serious about what you're doing, and But yeah, have fun with people, too. A lot of people like to deal with sort of personality. It's a little bit of theater too. So,
Right.
Yeah, so have fun when you're out there. I think it's always a little contagious. Any specific questions I can ask? I'm sorry this one doesn't load because do pull it up on your own just off of that sheet because it's good. I just don't know why it's not going to load for me today. Anything that I could answer for you? Forsyth High School. I mean, I'll try a middle school. Maybe there's some issue there for whatever they want to do that's not pulling up. Or maybe it's just the site today is slow. Yeah, questions, insights?
Thought it was really helpful, to be honest. Yeah, just like looking at FMLS, and it's just a great resource. So.
It is. So what you find a lot, because your people are always going to be, and I can just say Zillow, because Zillow is the biggest, but they're going to be on Zillow or Realtor.com or anything. You have in FMLS the ability to set people up on searches. The biggest thing that we as agents have through FMLS is we have all the criteria to use. If you try to set up a Zillow search yourself, right? They're sort of in $50,000 increments. You can't there's only a few things you can specify, like if you want to be in a swim tennis neighborhood,
Right.
That's tougher to do on most of the sites, whereas we can say, swim tennis, fenced backyard, has a pool, has, this kind of view there, so we have the ability to fine tune that search a lot more for people. And the way the search works in FMLS, we can set it up where anytime a new property comes onto the market, these people get an email right away. If you have somebody who, I want to be in Dunwoody and I want to be in Lockridge Forest, you can set them up with that search, and like every time something new comes on the market, you're going to know about it before every other agent does, because they get it, like as soon as it hits FMLS, they get the listing and they get an email pushed to them. So you can set them up for instantaneous that way. And you can set them up with 25 different searches, and then they're not doing anything themselves. You can also set it up so they get it every morning, or they get it every Tuesday and Friday, or twice a month. Sort of depends on your person and where they want to do. But take the FMLS Matrix 101 and 102 classes like as soon as you can, because especially newer agents, right? It took me 6 months to have my first deal, so it can take a while. Use the time that you have to get all that stuff behind you, because once you figure this stuff out, it doesn't take any time to deal with. It enables your business to flow faster.
Yeah, I'm signed up to take it the 20th.
Cool. Yeah, and there's all sorts of online tutorials on there too if you get stuck. Because you'll get stuck a lot on how do I do that initially. So take advantage of people in the office, because that's one thing about the KW culture. People are always willing to help you out. Or just look for the tutorial on FMLS. There's always one, and it'll just save you some time. I find new stuff that I didn't know how to do on there all the time.
Me too.
Yeah, which is good. Yeah, like I said, have fun with it. It's a fun business to be in, and there's just, we were talking earlier, there's a lot of ways to do it. So try to find out what you want your niche to be as quickly as possible. I went to KW's mega camp last year, and it was in family reunion as well. And family reunion was sort of cool because you do these breakout sessions. So I went to like 10 different classes, but one of them was a brainstorming session about where do you go, where other ways to get in business than just sort of the work in your sphere and internet leads, for example. So one guy was like, oh, our whole business is open houses, or not open houses, door knocking. And I said, really? He's like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, we closed 21 deals last year at an average price point of 1.1 million. So it was in California on the coast, basically. But they went every morning from, it was like 10 o'clock till 1, and then from 5 to 7, and they knocked on doors and talked to people about real estate. And they built their whole business doing that. who wouldn't want 21 deals with a $1.1 million sales price? I mean, not the, there's places in Atlanta you could definitely not do that. You would get shot, right? So every marketplace is different, but there's lots of neighborhoods, here and cities and stuff. And you just got to be aware of the laws. Like Forsyth County, you have to have gotten a permit from the police and wear something that allows you to solicit door to door. But yeah, there's all sorts of ways. I mean, open houses are, if you work a system really hard on open houses, they're a great way to pick up leads and do business. Anything where you can talk to people about real estate, get them talking, standing in line at the grocery store. Your name badge, as crazy as it sounds, when you wear a name badge out, you're standing around doing something and somebody goes, oh, you work with Keller Williams? I mean, Keller Williams is the largest real estate company in Metro Atlanta. We do like 20, I think the last one was 27% of all deals for KW here. So, and the next closest is like 8. So just to give you an example, so that's one of the reasons KW has a message in the marketplace, because they're number one in market share here. So use those things to help you out as well too. All right, still not going to come up for me. Dang it! That was my favorite school website. AJC's just having problems today. All right, guys. Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Really
This is
helpful.
great.
Yeah. That was cool. This is more, I started doing this, it's like the real class about real tools to use every day rather than, all the strategy, higher level things about your business. Because there's just new ways, I think, to make your life easier.
Yes.
Do you teach any other classes?
Sometimes I teach Ignite down here too. I teach Ignite up in our Swanee office and some of the other ones. Yeah, this is just my bread and butter. But our team does. Joanne, who I work with on the Wolf groups, Joanne Bolt's our team leader. She just did 12 hidden deals in your database yesterday, too. And she'll teach an MREA class, which is the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. It's Gary Keller's book. That's a great book. It doesn't matter whether you're Keller Williams or not. It just talks about long-term success in the business and how to approach it as a business person. Because in real estate, you're running your own business. It's I guess that's the smartest thing I can tell you that I've ever learned. And then somebody said it last year at one of the conventions I was at, and their quote was, "Real estate is really simple when you focus. There's lead generation and there's everything else." Because it's all about your pipeline. It's like everybody you talk to about real estate is not going to end up doing a deal with you. But if you don't talk to anybody about real estate, nobody's going to do a deal with you. So it's all conversations turn into appointments, turn into contracts, turn into closings. I mean it's real simple from that perspective. But that's the toughest thing to get into, and it's the toughest thing for older agents as well, because as your business changes, things that used to come easily, like I've always had a huge internet part of my business, internet leads. When I first started at RE/MAX, I was one of the people in the office who got the internet leads that came in, and it was part of my business. I paid them a little bit back, but I mean, that was some years 70% of my business was internet stuff. 10 years ago, I would call somebody back who, had pinged on a site, like the RE/MAX site at the time or something else. So like, "Oh my God, thank you for calling. I've been trying to get a hold of an agent for 3 days." Like, that does not happen anymore. They've already had 15 phone calls now. So that's how things change quickly. But it's always going to be about talking to people about real estate. Put yourself out there.
Right.
And talking about it can be as simple as, being on an email campaign. You'll learn Keller Williams teaches specifically 33 touch campaign, which is you should touch the people in your database 33 times during the course of the year, which you got to get your head wrapped around that, because if you call your best friend 3 times a month to talk about real estate, would they still be your best friend a month from now? They may be like, "Oh my God, quit calling me about real estate," right? So touches come in a lot of different ways, email and text and this and that. calling to shoot the breeze. It's about always reinforcing with your sphere that you are, in real estate, because real estate's very top of mind. Because everybody knows multiple real estate agents. It's like, why should somebody think to pick up the phone and call you? You just always got to sort of be letting them know. Sometimes you're calling them going, hey, I'm in a contest at work. I've got to get some business. Do you know anybody who's thinking of buying or selling? I'd really appreciate it if you could help me out. You know what? Your friends will always do that for you because they're your biggest supporters. So, count on them a bunch. But you can't do that to them every week, at the same time.
You're right about that. I actually, there was Mr. Calvin. I actually owned the edible arrangements in Flowery Branch, Georgia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for 2 years, and we sold it to the Moments. But I spoke with Mr. Calvin, and I told him, that I was a real estate agent. We had about a good hour conversation. He was like, yeah, if I know anybody, I'll let you know, or whatever. So now about maybe 3 weeks later, I'm in Ignite, and we have a contest. They're teaching us to call them and let them know that we have a contest. So I called him, and he was like, oh, I didn't know you were in real estate. I'm like, I just told you.
Yep.
We spoke for a whole hour.
Oh, yeah.
So people do forget.
They do.
Right.
It's
Right after you told, we talked for a whole hour about that.
yeah, and it's
3 weeks later, he forgot that I was in real estate.
It's just, life is fast and complicated.
Yeah,
and people just, you think they always know, and
Yeah.
they don't. So that's
Yeah.
part of what 33 Touch is about. Is just trying to keep yourself top of mind in a non beating them over the head kind of way. Where you wouldn't want that kind of person to do the same for you too. But
Right.
yeah.
But the contest worked because he remembered. He called me after that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he remembered
That's fantastic.
to let people know about that. So that's a great strategy. It really works.
Are you on social media? They can follow you or
You can follow the Bolt group.
the whole group?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not my thing. I'm not huge. Facebook is not part of my personal business strategy.
Okay.
So Facebook's for my friends and family,
Right.
and I keep that separate. You can develop your own Facebook business page, which would be great. But yeah, the Bolt group is our team one. Bolt, I think it's Bolt Group Realty. You'll see.
Bolt is it Bolt?
T. Because Joanne Bolt, that's her last name.
Okay.
Yeah, like lightning bolt. That's not my personal strategy. You gotta have your own strategy about how you're gonna do it. Facebook and Instagram and all those things. And you're a different generation than me, right? Like my generation is much more Facebook. I'm a baby boomer. Whole different way that people access. TikTok is, nobody knows what that is, and in my realm, I do because I'm a 14-year-old. I was in the music business for 20 years, so I always keep up with technology and stuff. I work for Sony. Our offices were right down the street at Abernathy and 400. So technology stuff comes easy to me, and I'll test it all and put it on my phone and see what it's about. That's my own strategy, not so much. But that's why I'm on a team, because we do have that strategy, so we promote our team in that regard. But use your social media stuff. There's a lot of ways to be very effective on Facebook. If you see a Facebook class, take it, because they'll tell you what to do and give you some insight, like best times of the day to do stuff. We do Facebook Live, for example. We try to do Fridays, go highlight a local business and do a Facebook Live thing there. But there's always something going on.
Right.
Facebook and stuff. But the more you can get your name out, and KW through Command now, you can actually do your own Facebook ads and book them yourself.
So can you do that when you're on a team? Are you going to brand your own self?
Yeah, there's always every team has a different dynamic on that, so you got to talk with whoever's going to be on the team. We're very much like, hey, there's things we do on our own, and there's things that you do on your own.
Right.
And teams come with varying levels of how much they charge you to be on teams, right? Because the team's picking up stuff off of your plate and doing things for you. So the typical KW way. On high-powered teams, if you're a listing agent, you make 30%, they make 70%.
Oh.
Yeah, and then it varies. Some on buyers will be, you make 40, the team makes 60. You know, we're not like that. We're either 50-50 or, you know, more experienced agents, it's 30% us, 70% for the agent too. Sort of depends on where you are in production and how much hand holding you need and this. So you have to decide for a team, is it worth me, you know, what's my value proposition? Every team has a different value proposition. Are they gonna enable my business enough that I make so much more because all these things are off my plate, and they are able to put so much more into me that it helps to short circuit my learning curve. You guys missed, but when I started in real estate, I was on a team, and then I was so I was on a team for 4 years, solo for 3 years, back on the team now for another 3. I like being on a team because I like working with people in that regard more. And I also found for me that it was really easy. I worked out of the RE/MAX office in Sandy Springs on Roswell Road, and I lived up on the lake because we moved, because my wife works in Gainesville and she's got the health insurance, so I wanted to make her life easier, right? But it was real tough to try to make the 9 o'clock meeting when I had to leave my house at 7:30 up there to make it down here. And you know, then I was like, oh, I'll paint my shed today instead. That sounds like a lot more fun than spending 3 hours in traffic. So that's why I found like teams help keep me motivated in my business, and it pays off for me. You know, but everybody's different thing. Lots of first year agents doing great business all on their own. You know, so there's no right or wrong way. It's just the right way for you.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah, just
yes.
and any team that you talk to, if you're ever talk to teams, just make sure you understand what their value proposition is and what they're going to do for you.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
That's the key part right there.
Well, thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Hey, you're welcome.
So
Hello. Always a pleasure. So good to meet you.
yes.
Yeah, feel free to call me or email me anytime. John Hawn with the Bulk Group, and I don't have cards because I'm getting new cards, but I can get you my contact information.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See you later, Miss.
Or it's John at
Okay,
bulkgrouprealty.com.
bye.
Okay.
Awesome, guys.
You have a great
All right,
day.
thank
Have a
you.
good
Have a
one. You
good
too.
one. Thank you. And now, is this your book, darling, or was she
No,
just
she
showing you
just
what
was
it looks
showing
like?
me,
Yes, yes. So are you thinking about doing it? or-
Yeah, possibly. This is my first talk. I haven't been anywhere else, so.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah.
Yes.
Trying to figure out what is going to